A driver in Sevastopol opens an app, waits for a code, and drives to a station where the code buys him 20 liters of petrol. If no code comes, he buys no petrol and waits until tomorrow. Everyone on the peninsula knows the reason. Ukraine has spent the summer hitting the bridges and the rail lines into Crimea. That reason is real, and it is incomplete. The deepest cut to Crimea's railway was made by the railway itself, filed as a service notice and published ahead of time. It arrived as paperwork. Hold that service notice for a moment. The fuel shortage it was written for began before the strikes did, and the record proves that on its own. In Sevastopol, a QR code is currency. It buys 20 liters. It arrives through a state messaging app, and when a batch opens, it is gone inside an hour. Outside the station, people who got a code for their 20 liters sell it on. The next batch of codes opens late in the evening, and it goes the same way it went the night before, inside an hour, to whoever happened to be awake and watching a phone. So the peninsula is short of fuel. The usual explanation for the fuel shortage runs like this: everywhere. Ukraine hit the bridges, Ukraine hit the trains, and Crimea ran dry. Clean story. So which came first? The dates are where that story comes apart, because the paperwork that runs a peninsula moves at its own pace and leaves a trail behind it, whether anybody bothers to read the trail or not. Sevastopol restricted fuel sales on the 22nd of May. Crimea followed at the end of that month with a hard cap of 20 liters a day, signed by the head of the Occupation Administration. The codes started on the 6th of June, on one filling network. The rail bridge usually named as the cause was hit on the 18th of June, 3 weeks after the cap. The shortage did not begin when the bridge fell. The bridge fell into a shortage that was already being rationed by decree. One question before the paperwork. When you hear that a place has run out of fuel, do you assume somebody attacked it or that somebody stopped delivering to it? Answer in one line. Both sides have spent the summer describing what the strikes on the railway did. Only one of them published a number about its own trains. On the 25th of June, the railway that runs the line published a service change. 11 routes over the Kerch Bridge would end. 7 trains a day would be left to and from Crimea, for the whole peninsula. Before that, 18 trains a day ran into Crimea. A freight train carries in one movement what a long column of road tankers needs a day and a great deal of open road to carry, which is the whole reason armies build railways into places they intend to hold. So who takes 11 rail routes off a map? This is the figure in the story that needs no interpretation. It came from the operator that owns the trains, about its own trains in public. That published cut also came with a start date. The 8th of July, 13 days on from that notice. A railway that has just lost a bridge publishes disruption and works around it. This one published a schedule. On the face of that notice, somebody had already concluded the rail line was staying broken. Zoom, the convincing happened on the ground. In June, on one stretch of track where the line crosses a canal. Bridges get repaired. That is what a rail network is for. It is built to be broken and put back together. Rozdolne is where that gets interesting. What keeps a rail bridge down? The bridge belongs to the Kerch to Jankoy line, the route that carries fuel, ammunition, and heavy equipment from the eastern end of Crimea into the interior of the peninsula and on toward the southern front. Where it crosses the North Crimean Canal, the whole line narrows to one span of track over water. Drones hit the bridge before dawn on the 18th of June. Ukraine's general staff confirmed that bridge strike the following day. A fire burned by the rail crossing. Now put that bridge back in the month it belongs to. Defense Express recorded 2 locomotives hit near Rozdolne and Vladislavivka on the 5th of June. 3 days later, United 24 Media logged a locomotive struck on the Moscow to Simferopol line, with services suspended. The Russian-installed governor said a member of the crew was killed. The bridge was the third. 3 strikes on the same network inside a fortnight, and each one landed while the previous repair was still being organized. A crew can fix a bridge span. 1 span. Nobody can fix a fortnight. The rail line had survived worse than a fortnight before and come back every time. So the damage to the bridge is only half of this. In April, the same intelligence unit released footage of 5 separate strikes on moving freight trains. The trains kept running. By June, the rail target list looked much the same. What had changed was the sky above the route. Changed how? When that unit published its Crimea rail footage at the end of June, one of the items in the release was a destroyed air surveillance radar sitting alongside the burning locomotives. Ukraine's unmanned systems forces put its own June figure at 31 air defense systems and radars destroyed across all fronts, down from 36 in May. Both of those are the claimant's own counts, and nobody outside has audited them. An outside voice reaches the same conclusion about what it did to the rail campaign. Kyle Glenn, an investigator at the Center for Information Resilience who tracks the drone campaigns on both sides, told the Kyiv Independent in late June that taking down those systems is what cleared the way for the strikes on logistics in the south. On that reading, the bridge stayed broken because the sky over it had stopped being defended. Losing a railway is survivable. Every army carries a fallback for it, and Russia had been building hers all month. Pontoons and dirt. Earth crossings went across the canal at Armyansk and at Stavki. A pontoon went in near Henichesk and another at Chonhar, and the traffic that used to ride on rails went onto rubber. Each one went in under observation. Observed by whom and with what waiting at the far end of it. A pontoon carries a fraction of what a span carries, takes weight 1 vehicle at a time, and has to be inspected, repaired, and sometimes rebuilt after every stretch of bad weather, which is why an army treats one as a bridge it is renting by the week. On the 13th of June, the Ukrainian regiment that had led the bridge strikes said publicly what it was doing next. It was moving from hitting crossings to patrolling the whole route and blocking attempts to restore them. That changes the unit of the target. A bridge is something you destroy once. A route is something you keep. So the route became the target. 2 days before that announcement, Ukraine confirmed a strike at the Armyansk crossing that it says hit 50 Russian vehicles at once. Ukrainian intelligence also says military fuel began traveling in trucks, painted to look civilian. It released the footage. The material belongs to the side making the claim, so the road took the load. It took it at the speed of a pontoon, under a patrol that had announced itself. So, the road carried what it could. The gap stayed open, and the next decision in this story was taken indoors, on paper. There is a difference between rationing something and reassigning it. Which one was this? At 9 o'clock on the morning of the 21st of June, every filling station in Crimea stopped selling petrol to the public, on coupons or otherwise. The head of the occupation administration said what fuel remained would go to state bodies that keep the republic running and secure. That sentence is the policy. From that morning, fuel in Crimea was something you were allocated. The following day, a thermal power plant at Kerch was struck. Ukrainian reporting put half the peninsula in the dark, and satellite imagery showed a smoke plume tens of kilometers long. 5 days after the pumps closed, the occupation authorities declared a state of emergency. Neither of those two orders was an attack. Both were signatures, put on paper by the administration that runs the peninsula. An emergency is a word until somebody has to run a city under it. Then it turns into arithmetic. Tonnage is the number everybody reaches for and nobody can check. Nothing independent counts what crosses into Crimea. So look instead at what the occupation has to publish in order to run a city. Sevastopol opened the summer with 74 kindergartens working. At a government session at the end of June, its Russian-installed governor said 24 were still open. The reason he gave was fuel and electricity. The city could not keep the rest running. 50 closures. What does a city do with that? A kindergarten is what lets a nurse, a driver, or a dispatcher get to work at all. And a city that closes 50 of them in one summer is telling its own workforce to stay home. That figure comes from the record of the administration doing the closing. Their own minutes. It is the kind of number that only surfaces when a government has to keep its own city working. Then, on the 6th of August, the occupation governor said free sale of petrol was returning to one of the two main fuel networks in Sevastopol, and presented it as a sign the crisis was easing. The limit per car stayed at 20 liters. The cap signed at the end of May is still the cap. Still 20 liters. Everything in this episode happened inside it. So does that mean the siege is working? Answering that honestly means naming what none of these documents contain. All of this came out of documents that one side or the other published about itself. That is where its strength comes from. So where does it stop? The tonnage problem from earlier does not go away at the end. Every figure of that kind in circulation belongs to whoever benefits from it, and none of them are in here. The same record also supports a quieter reading than the dramatic one. A railway that cuts 11 routes may be protecting rolling stock it cannot afford to lose. An emergency declared for economic reasons is a budget instrument as well as an admission. It unlocks money and suspends procedure. 7 trains a day is a smaller railway, and a smaller railway is still a railway. What would separate those two readings is capacity data. How much those 7 trains actually carry. Neither side publishes it. This channel runs without a sponsor and without a newsroom. The support links are under the video, and a month of membership costs less than a single 20-liter fill in Sevastopol does this summer. 20 liters is the cap this whole episode is about. A month of this costs less than that. And if that second reading is the one you find convincing, say so. It comes out of the same documents this episode is built on, and I would rather argue with your version of it than pretend it does not exist. Leave me one word. On this record, is Crimea a peninsula under siege, or a peninsula being managed? What the record does establish is narrower than a headline and harder to argue with. Between the end of May and the 6th of August, the administration running Crimea restricted fuel, capped it, rationed it by code, stopped selling it, declared an emergency, and cut its own railway by more than half. It wrote all of that down itself. Whatever was happening in the sky, that is what it decided on the ground.